Thanks very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great, so I don't need to hold the microphone. It's been a real roller coaster the last few months. We came through September, through the 19th of September, the ramp up to the vote, to the disappointment on the night, and then the surge just carried on, and it's been quite incredible. The SNP membership shot up. I sat down, had a think about things, decided to join the party, joined at the start of November, and it's been great. We're now at 100,000 members and continuing. And it's not just that. We've seen the surge in the polls, which has been unprecedented and quite incredible. And we've seen that reflected in elections and by-elections going on around the place. We had a by-election winning last night. One of the stalwarts of the campaign in Kirkcaldy, Marie Penman, won her seat in Kirkcaldy just a few weeks ago. And I was delighted when she organised an event in the church in Kirkcaldy that I spoke at, which was actually Gordon Brown's dad's old Kirk. So that was very fitting. And we've seen a tremendous confidence amongst the people of Scotland. The cringe is less and less, and soon it will be no more. And there's a great momentum there, because I think we're, true to say, on the verge of something quite dramatic, an historical event that's coming up in the next few weeks. During the referendum campaign, we had from the other side Project Fear, and I think the boot is very much on the other foot now. The fearties are all on the other side, and you see them coming up on the television. We saw Anna Soubry on with Alex Salmond the other week, pontificating about what were the bad things. Send their elected representatives down to Westminster, and take part in the decision-making process. And finally, how dare Anna Soubry and Janet Street Porter and the unionist press and the people in Westminster all tell us we don't have the right to go down there and exercise our democracy. Because the message is, we're not going to go back to just eating our cereal. We're going to be sending a WMD down there, a weapon of mass democracy, and they're going on about it. And then it's all about, well, why did they want to keep us? Is it because they love us? We had the love bombs during the campaign. Well, we know and they know it's because of what we contribute. It's because of the natural resources, the talents of our people, the economic strength of Scotland, the tax revenues we've generated for them now in over history. But it's not just what we can do now, and it's important to us and important to us in our march forward. It's the understanding of what this country could be. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to go through a wee story that some of you have maybe heard before, and it's about the Prime Minister in Norway. And if you haven't heard it, it very much sets in scene what this country could be and what we're trying to achieve with this march towards independence. And the Prime Minister of Norway goes for a wee walk along the fjord one day, as you do, and he stumbles across the magic lamp, and he picks up and gives it a rub, and the genie pops out. And the genie says to him, I'll give you some wishes to make Norway a better country. And the Prime Minister says, well, that's a difficult one. We're the richest country in the world. They measure these things and tell us we're just about the happiest country in the world. Everybody's got a great life, money, time to enjoy spending it. Difficult to think of something that could make us a better place. And Genie says, well, you can't waste my time, you need to think of something. So the Prime Minister has a think, and he says, right, I can think of a few things. He says, we've got a wonderful country in Norway, we've got a great economy, but it's built on just a couple of things. We've got a fishing industry, we've got our oil, but we've not got much else. It'd be great with some other sectors we could rely on to give us some strength in our economy. For example, we've got a national drink called Aquavit that we love but nobody else has ever heard of. It'd be great if that was a world-renowned brand and everybody from Chicago to Singapore would pay stupid money to take this stuff off our hands, and we couldn't make enough of it, and we were the only people that could make it. That'd be a nice wee earn to have in the bank. He says, yeah, we can do that for you. He said, we've got a problem with the language, we speak Norwegian. Nobody else in the world speaks Norwegian. It'd be nice if you could just make Norwegian the world international business language, so that everybody would just go off the plane and spoke in our native language and everybody understood what we were talking about. That would make life a wee bit easier. So we've got a beautiful country here in Norway, but it's very big country from top to bottom's a long way. The weather's horrible in the winter. It's under 2 metres of snow for 3 months of the year. We've got the snow ploughs out in the morning just to get to work. It'd be great if you could take the same amount of natural resources and the same population and put them in a country a quarter the size and give us a nice temperate climate all year round so we didn't have to worry about digging about the snow in the morning. We've got a long way to go if we want to export from Norway. We've got to go through 2 other countries to get to our main markets in Europe. It'd be great if we had a big landmass of 60 million people just bolted on our southern border. They'd all speak Norwegian and they'd all want to buy our goods and trade with us. We wouldn't want to be ruled by them with generated. And it'd be great with a stronger national brand in Norway if people were generated. And it'd be great with a stronger national brand in Norway if people knew who our national poet was and it was celebrated every year in Moscow and Washington. People recognised our national crest and on and on and on and on and on. During the referendum campaign, the no-state used to laugh at us and we talked about one day we could be like Norway. The reality is Norway should, for us, should just be a starting point. We can do so much more, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do here. So we're moving forward, we're winning elections, we've got a lot to do, but let's look about what we're up against and the personification of Jim Murphy. Jim Murphy that keeps going on about this largest party nonsense. He was the man that stood up when Gordon Brown came second in 2010 and said that Gordon Brown had every right to stay in Downing Street constitutionally and try and form a government, a minority government. He's forgotten that. He's also forgotten that the very first Labour government ever existed was the second largest party under Ramsay MacDonald and only getting to power because they formed a coalition with the Liberals. He's conveniently forgotten all about that. But it's a wee story with Jim Murphy. Jim Murphy, I debated against him once during the referendum campaign, and it was fitting because it was at Strathclyde University. And Jim Murphy went to Strathclyde University, and I went to Strathclyde University as well, as it happens. And Jim was there for 9 years, and I was there for 6 years. And between us, we've got 2 degrees, and Jim doesn't have either of them. We're a historical town here, Dunfermline. It's got history going back centuries. The Royal Borough of Dunfermline, so I'm going to take a wee bit of licence and step back in history and talk about stuff that's happened in the past, where we've had Scots going south to the centre of power in Westminster and what's happened. If you go way back to 1603 with James VI went south to the Union of the Crowns, and that didn't turn out so good because not long, 100 years after that, with the Union of the Parliaments and the end of Scottish independence, and then in the 20s we had the big upsurge in the Labour Party, and members from Glasgow and from Fife and from all over Scotland went down south to Ramsay MacDonald's government and very quickly became part of the establishment. And then just up the road with Gordon Brown, much more recently became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and again became part of the establishment, didn't do Scotland any good. This time it's different. This time we're sending down a team of representatives, members of Parliament from the SNP to represent Scotland. They're not going to go down to become part of the establishment, they're going to go down to shake the establishment to its core, and they're not going to go down there to settle down, they're going down there to settle up. As I said, we're very much on the brink of something historical here. So what's going to happen when the MPs get down there? We're going to have to, they're going to have to deal with austerity, the end of austerity, which we really understand is the direction we should be taking in terms of economic policy. As I mentioned earlier, I did my tour during the referendum campaign, taking the economic message about the strength of Scotland's economy up and down the country. I'm just going to spend the next month going round speaking in support of SNP candidates, explaining to business audiences and other audiences why austerity as an economic strategy makes absolutely no sense and is completely counterproductive, notwithstanding the fact that as a social strategy it's also a complete and utter disaster because it really doesn't make any sense. And anybody that saw David Cameron, I don't like blood sports, but I made an exception last night watching David Cameron getting savaged by Paxman. Completely clueless on the economy, couldn't move off his soundbites, really doesn't understand it, quite scary. And of course we're going down there to vote against the renewal of Trident, which is absolutely critical. And we're going down there to resist the UKIP-driven agenda, because I think the diversity of Scotland is one of the tremendously wonderful things about this country, and you get involved in all kinds of different activities from different groups that have made their home in Scotland, and it's a very, very important part of what we are as a country. And of course we're going down there to get more powers, because you can look at Smith and you look at the things that happened before that and after that. The reality is that Smith isn't worth the paper it's written on unless we've got the power to force them to follow through on it, and that's a very, very important part of what needs to happen. Because make no mistake about it, if we don't have power down there, if one of the two big parties gets a majority and we don't have any leverage, Smith will get forgotten about as soon as you like. On the other hand, if we've got leverage, and it looks very much like we will have in a balanced parliament, then we'll get that and much, much more as we move towards full fiscal autonomy as a stepping stone towards full independence. Because politics is all about power, and if we've got that power, we can drive things and make things happen. And if we've got that power, frankly, they'll need to lay on extra trains out of King's Cross to get all the powers on them to bring them all back north for us to use them back here. And then we've got the challenge in Holyrood of making sure that we can get to work on those powers and make them work for the people of Scotland. So this is all about what we can be. It's all about our aspiration. It's all about the confidence that the people of Scotland have got. It's all about everything that we can do to make this a very successful country going forward. And this is all about being on the edge of history and making that work for us. There's 40 days and 40 nights left until the vote on the 7th of May. It's our job to get out there, do everything you can, encourage more people to get involved, support the candidate. Let's make Dunfermline one of the very, very large number of seats we're going to win in May. Thanks very much.